Malta consists of basically 3 islands, which are Comino, Gozo and Malta itself, and they're surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea. It makes it very special for me to dive here, as the visibility here in Malta is really good, up to 30, 40, 50 meters on really good days. You have warm water temperature up to 30 degrees Celsius during the summer. It can drop a little bit during the winter times, but you can actually dive all year around here. But Malta sticks very out with the wrecks that are laying around the islands. So there are more than 60 wrecks that are laying between Gozo, Malta and Comino. Some of them are artificial reefs or wrecks that get sunk basically on purpose for us divers to explore them. And some of them are historical wrecks that, especially during the World War I or World War II, got shot down and still basically now laying there in the sea, in the Mediterranean Sea here. Wreck diving is a very special and adventurous sport, I would say. Wrecks inherit a lot of history, especially if they got sunk by accident. Some of the wrecks around the world still are part of exploration expeditions, so people actively search for wrecks that have been probably sunken 200-300 years ago, but also the artificial reefs or wrecks that get sunk basically on purpose for us divers inherit a lot of history while they were still in active service. Wreck diving is kind of an adventure that brings you back into history and a little bit of like exploration style. But the other thing also is that wrecks serve as reef. Some of the artificial wrecks that are laying around Malta also have the purpose as an artificial reef to attract more marine life and to gather more life back in the Mediterranean Sea. Scuba diving for me is a way to relax, to feel peacefulness, to calm down and to enjoy the life or the underwater worlds that probably most people are a little bit afraid of also, because it's not for everybody, scuba diving, but for me it's just a way and a place where I can fully relax and find peace and calmness. So one of the wrecks that I like to dive and that has also quite a bit of history laying around Malta is the so-called X127. X127 is a wreck that lays in the harbor of Um El Island, a small peninsula within Slima in Valletta. The X127 was built during World War I, 1915, in England as part of a water pumper, so carrying water and pumping water in and out from the ship. Got sold to Malta. Here it was converted to transfer basically oil or fuel for the submarine which was laying in Um El Island. In 1942, unfortunately, the submarine was attacked, and with that the X127 got hit, caught fire, and it immediately sunk. So nowadays the X127 lays upright along the harbor reef at 5 meters with the bow and 22 meters on the stern. And you can basically also see the torpedo hit, which is in the X127. So nowadays you can explore the wrecks and see some of the engines that are still intact inside of the wreck. Unfortunately, you're also not allowed to penetrate this wreck, since it is a historical wreck and there's a lot of silt and entanglement danger inside of the wreck. Another wreck that I really like to dive, which is laying off in Zurich here in Malta, is the El Faroud. El Faroud was a Libyan oil tanker that was built in 1969 in England and served basically as a tanker between Italy and Libya. It was docked in 1995 in the Grand Harbour here in Valletta, but unfortunately caught fire, and also with it an explosion which killed 9 people. So it still, after this explosion, stayed in the harbour of Valletta until the government of Malta bought it and decided to scuttle it in front of Zurich 1998. So this is a wreck that got prepared for us divers. So all the entanglement hazards got removed, so it's easy to penetrate as well and to explore a little bit of the wreck. In the 2000 there was a big storm as well, which cracked the tanker, which is 110 meters long, in more or less half, and also moved it a little bit against each other. So it's very impressive also to see the power of the ocean that it has on such a big wreck as well. Nowadays it's a wreck that you can easily also penetrate, so you can explore some of the remaining boilers, engine rooms. There are still the corridors as well, where you can basically swim through, and what's sometimes also a nice feature is the remaining kitchen, where you still have some plates and cutleries left that you can see, and even the oven. What also is very impressive to discover at the El Faroud are the propeller, which are massive. So it's so massive even that you can swim over them. My favorite piece, especially for wreck diving and narrow spaces overhead environment, are Apeks RK3 fins. These fins are very short, light, and are very good for frog kick or modified frog kick. So especially in tinier spaces, narrow passages, these fins give you a lot of propulsion, and you don't actually hit the walls, the ceilings, whatever you're gonna explore. So due to its shortness, they're very good in narrow spaces and in overhead environment, and especially very good for frog kicking. What I would recommend for everybody who wants to start wreck diving is stay within your limits. So don't exceed your own limits, because that just can cause some accidents. Stay within your limits, get proper training. As well, plan your dive and dive your plan. I think that's a very common rule in scuba diving, but especially also for wreck diving, and if you want to explore a little bit. Also respect the environment that you're going to dive in. Wrecks are on one hand reefs, so they're marine habitat for a lot of marine life, as well a historical site, especially wrecks that got sunk by accident during wars, whatever. Get yourself informed about the history, about the wreck, how it is now, since most of the wrecks are laying there already quite a while. Get yourself proper training, as well as be aware of entanglements. Use lights, especially if you decide to go inside of a wreck. Most of the time it can be dark, so lights also help to illuminate the way through corridors or passages of a wreck. If you want to explore parts of the wrecks where there's a lot of silt or sand on the bottom, your buoyancy needs to be nearly perfect. Otherwise you will disturb a lot of silt and sand and can lead into an accident that you might not find the way out.